What's good, YouTube? This is going to be a video on when it makes sense to create a new channel. So many people ask me, should I delete my channel and start a new one? Is my channel cooked? Sleepy nights. Okay, short form is not looking fantastic. It's almost all browse and very low shorts. And then long form is very, very similar baseline. Got a 94xer here. Looks like it fell off though after. Okay, so I mean, it looks like you're definitely in the feed. You're not shadow banned, but you're definitely not pulling life-changing views here. It would not make sense for you to create a new channel. It would not. I can tell you when it would make sense for you to create a new channel. If you have something that's uniquely skillful. Okay, so you're extremely good at editing. Like this motherfucker who just came in. He has 4 videos. And he's averaging literally almost 100K in one of the most competitive niches on YouTube. This is when it makes sense to create a new channel. It doesn't make sense to create a new channel if you're uploading stuff that's very easily replicatable. When you create a new channel, there's a kind of like a honeymoon phase where you can maximize. Like, you will get way more impressions when you're first starting a channel than if you are 3 to 6 months deep. And it's really dependent too on the amount of videos you upload. So like for you specifically, you're uploading pretty frequently here. I would say this is, I mean, it's definitely over weekly because there's 12 over 4 months here. And the baseline's kind of been established at around 50-ish views. Although you do have a good outlier here. Because there's nothing in these videos that are like particularly, it needs to be in like a relatively competitive niche, or you need to have some form of competitive advantage on this for it to make sense. The reason this guy's pulling such great views is because you get way more impressions when you first start, and you're establishing an elo and on the sense of YouTube's algorithm where they're like, does this guy suck or not, basically? Okay, because if you don't suck, YouTube wants to get you out to as many people as possible so they can get as many people watching a video for a long enough time to run more ads. If you were to think of it like a game, like an elo ranking of chess almost, don't call me a guru, but let me fucking, some shit like this, right? So if you're starting out in chess, you get like a base rating of 1200. It might actually be 800. I'm nowhere near this rating, but basically if you're like, you start out, you're intermediate, you have like basically a base elo of 1200 points. You're not good, you're not bad. You're going to gain roughly 150 points, or like 100 to 150 points for your first few games that you play. And keep in mind, this analogy is perfectly aligned with YouTube. So basically, literally like the first 5 games, dude. Literally the first 5 games, you can go from 1200 all the way up to 1600 in your first 5 games, or all the way down to 800 in your first 5 games. It's very unlikely. I mean, if you like win 1, lose 1, win 1, lose 1, draw, you'll still be 1200. But basically, you're very volatile when you first start. When you first start YouTube, if you're really good going into it, you have a huge AVD and a huge CTR, average duration and click-through rate, you will get pushed 100 times harder than if you were, let's say, 50 videos deep, if that makes sense. So like, for example, Sleepy Nights Relaxation, butchered the fuck out of that. Sleepy Nights Relaxation, I'm leaving it in because I'm going to go. You could upload some shit that could be like an insane AVD, crazy click-through rate, great thumbnail, the whole lot. And I would assume, almost guaranteed, it's going to perform better. But given that you kind of, I wouldn't say you boned it from the start. This is obviously a little bit more of a competitive niche, and it's a little bit more of an evergreen long-term play. But you've kind of given YouTube's algorithm an elo, okay? And it appears to be right around the 50 view mark. Again, it's similar for short form, but it's really, really obvious in long form. Luke Bolch, on the other hand, has also given YouTube an elo, and it's a lot higher. Like, a lot fucking higher. These are all really good thumbnails. I don't need to know his dashboard. I know these have great view durations. Given that it is so early on, remember the chess analogy, okay? So early on, first 5 games, you can capitalize on this quote-unquote honeymoon phase where YouTube doesn't really understand what your elo is. They don't know if you're good or bad. By basically going, like right up here, up to a high elo, okay, a high base, where you're going to get a lot of views. Like this one video, probably, this channel has over 1 million impressions, easy. At the same time, if you're maybe not coming into this with really good editing, thumbnails, or ideas, you might be giving YouTube a really bad elo, okay? And it's not that you can't get yourself out of that elo. It's just that it's going to take a little bit, not a little bit, it's going to take a long time to get out of that elo. Because if you don't know, basically in chess, the more games you play, so like you're going to go from getting 150 per game to like 100 to like maybe 80 and then 50, and it's going to keep going down. until you're getting like plus 20, plus 12, or minus, you know, if you're losing, until eventually it's going to bottom out at about 8 points. Okay, so you're going to get about 8 points if you win and lose about 8 points if you lose. Draw is usually equal, or you like gain or lose a point. So you're basically at the point where you're around like the 8 point mark, okay? Or maybe not quite 8, I'd say maybe around like 12, 20. So you're clearly like you're probably getting better at this. You're probably starting to rank in this niche. Again, it appears to be a lot more long term than like make money, which is a lot more like boom, 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 people are in and out, whatever, right? But again, you've established a very low elo on this channel. It really only makes sense to go back to this. It really only makes sense to create a new channel. Again, I would never delete a channel if you're going into it already really good, okay? If you smurf in a game, so you create a new account because you just want to destroy people, that can 100% happen in YouTube. It happens every day. But if you're like 1100, okay, and you start a game and you create a new channel, you could get lucky. You know, you could get lucky in your first 5 games. You could get lucky in your first 5 videos. I wouldn't say it's 5 videos. I'd say it's more, no one really knows. I would say it's roughly your first 3 to 4 months. If you upload like crazy and you're posting like once a day, it's going to be a lot lower than that. But I would say it's like give or take roughly 4-ish months, okay? I'd say somewhere within like your first 8 videos on long form, okay? Somewhere in that. And that doesn't mean you're boned. It doesn't mean it's over. I'm just saying you're in a lower elo, so you're going to have to like grind to get out of it. And I can hear it from the people in the back. Ecom Lifter, why not just create 50 channels and just, what's the point? Like, why not just create a bunch of channels and just keep doing this until I get a super high elo established one day, right? Right off the bat. It doesn't work, okay? It doesn't work. There is a max IP address, like per IP address basically, that you can get of new channels that are getting organic impressions. I've used this guy 100 times. I think he's perfect for this. If you have very, very old organic impressions on a channel and you let it sit for a while, it is almost like gold, okay? It is almost like gold. If you look at any of the monster channels you can think of, so many of them have one video and then a long ass time before they start actually get on a bit of a consistent schedule. This channel is also old as hell. And this definitely helps, but like you also need organic impressions built on the videos themselves. So you're not like screwed here because you uploaded a bunch in the beginning. It's just going to take you a while to grind out of it. Don't create a new channel. You really only need to create a new channel if you're at like a ridiculous level of editing. If you're already good at the game. If you're already good at the game, you can maximize the honeymoon period and bypass the level of grinding that's going to take 8, 12, 20 points to go from 800 up to 1600, right? This is fucking marker. 800 up to 1600, right? Creating a new channel at this level, though, is not going to... I mean, unless you just get really lucky in your first 5 games, like first roughly 3 to 4 months, you might have a much higher baseline. But more likely than not, it's just going to be a similar story, or you might get like a little bit higher, like 11, 1200. Because right now, you're probably around like 900 to 1000. Whereas Luke Bolch, I'm not condoning him. I don't really watch this. I think he clearly knows what he's doing. This dude's like a 1500, like easy, right? So, I mean, he's coming in, he's obliterating it. He's going 150, 100, plus 80. He's already up at like a 1500 level rated in his first 3 videos. Again, you have, it's the honeymoon phase where you just like, you're able to make a shitload of progress within your first few videos, or the first roughly 3-ish months on a new channel. Again, you can't bust out like 100 channels. You just can't, okay? I know some people say you can do Google Voice, you can do that, you can change the laptops, you can do this phone or that. Dude, I've tried 100 different ways, man. Most people have about like maybe four channels that they can realistically get going and get good organic impressions on. If you're brand new to this, just get one, okay? Literally just get one. Get to a point where you're getting really good videos out, really high quality. When you have this high elo, you want to restart because you're at a point where you're no longer making any progress, right? Because you're having to play 100 games to make the same amount of progress you'd make in literally one game on a new channel, right? So you're going to slowly grind your way up till you're at a good enough elo. And then I would heavily recommend you come over here and you start a new channel and capitalize on the honeymoon phase where it is 100 times easier to make progress. Then you can basically just bypass all of the grind, okay? I hope that helps, and stay grinding if you're grinding. Peace.